What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the U-verse? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're finally going to kick off the build series on the brand new 2018 Aprilia Tuono Factory. So if you guys are interested in any sort of a build series, especially on this bike, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there in the bottom right corner and make sure you tag along. I will set up a playlist that'll make it nice and easy for you. Today what we're going to do is something that I've already done. As you can tell, the unboxing is done. Some of the setup was even done, but we're going to be installing a tail tidy. Why a tail tidy? Because nobody likes those big butts. Especially not a butt with a stick coming out of it. This is a pretty simple install. As you can see, this kit is brought to you by Moto Dynamic. Yeah, these guys right here. I'll get to that pile here in a second. But Moto Dynamic has always put out some incredible stuff. This is no exception. It's an absolutely beautiful kit. The way they ship you the kit is it's a splice-free kit, so it's completely plug and play. The license plate light is separate, and it's just attached by those two little screws right underneath there. So you just make sure your LEDs are pointing down, mount it, bolt those things in there, make sure the wire comes out nice and clean. You got the actual mounting plate right here. This is one of the two turn signal wiring harnesses that you get to plug into the factory harness. Again, it's direct plug and play. That plug actually plugs directly into the factory wiring. If you're going to use the factory blinkers, they also include these little brackets. This one has the factory blinker already installed, and I will show you guys how to do that. It's really freaking simple. You don't have to take apart your wiring harness at all, and then all the necessary hardware. Tools we're gonna need for this: set of gloves, optional, an assortment of 4mm Allen keys. Probably won't use the socket, but I just had it out for display. You'll want a 10mm on a wobble, and I'll show you why the wobble here in just a second. 10mm spanner, and a couple Phillips. One you want to have is really small. Let's see if I can get it to focus. It's really small. I think it's a number 0 Phillips, and then like a standard number 2. Okay. So that's really all you need to do this. It's a really simple job. Starting off, just take your key, plug it in here, pop off your tail. Underneath the seat, you'll find your, I don't know what this is, wiring harness that's wedged onto a couple little bars right here. Just pull that up, get that out of the way. Again, I've already done this, so I apologize, but what you were looking for is you pull out the wires. You're actually looking for this plug right here. This is another included goodie, this wiring harness, that you get with the Moto Dynamic kit. So it will plug straight into the factory plug and then adapt to the plugs that are on the Moto Dynamic kit. These two are for your blinkers. This one's for your license plate light. So these are what we're interested in. I'm actually not going to be using the factory blinkers anymore. So I think there's another wiring harness that comes in the integrated taillight, but we'll worry about the lighting or the wiring later. But this way, you guys know, I can't remember which one's which, but they're really easy to get to. Leave your passenger light or your pillion seat off, plug them in, leave them up, turn them on, test them, make sure which one's which. If it's not the same, if you've got them reversed, just unplug them and switch them. The plugs are identical, they work in either one. Once you have everything out of the way, you can see this bolt, or this nut, right down here. That is why we've got the wobble. So the wobble will help us get onto that, because there's a bunch of stuff in the way. With the wobble socket on, up above, we can see right there is a Phillips screw. There's another one on the opposite side. We'll just get both of those out. The third screw is underneath this little plug cover here, and it's a royal pain in the butt, so I might just add pocket knife. Be real careful, get your blade up underneath there and just pop it right off. Then there's a third Phillips right up underneath there. All right, once that screw is almost completely out, support it, remove it. Normally, you'll have wires coming out of here, just feed them down through that hole, and then you'll have your entire tail section still complete from the factory, unlike me who didn't follow instructions. So yeah, follow instructions, make sure that you leave the wiring harness. If you order the Moto Dynamic kit like I recommend, you don't have to cut anything. Listen to me, don't have to cut anything. Don't be a me. So let's move up and I'll show you how to pull the blinkers off of here if you're gonna use them. If you're like me and you're gonna go to an integrated taillight, you can skip forward about a minute. If you're gonna reuse the factory binnacle tail turn signals, there's a little Phillips screw right on the end of the triangle. Pull that Phillips. And yes, you need to do this even if you're using the Moto Dynamic. Pull off the lens. And the light assembly. On the back of the light assembly, you'll see these two plugs, these two wires here are just on spade terminals. Pull them out, undo the bolt, and remove this while feeding your wires back through it. And you should be left with your factory wires hanging out, and you've got your full assembly. Ready for the Moto Dynamic kit, which then you feed the Moto Dynamic wiring harness back through. And yeah, doing this off the bike is a lot easier. Feed the wires through. Come on. We got one through. There's the other one. So feed the two wires through, feed in some of that insulation into there. Make sure the wires come out. Plug them back in. And reassemble your light. And yeah, the Moto Dynamic kit comes with the correct size spades, so you can just plug them right in. Plug and play. You might have to pull out the slack wire to get it to sit flush. So you just got to get this reflector back in all the way, and then the lens will go on over the top of it, and you put the screw back in. Do that twice and you're dead. Back at the bike, first step in installing the tail tidy is installing this mounting plate. This is the first thing that goes back on. This hole right up here goes into that last screw that we removed. So you just line this up into the little cutout that's provided by Aprilia. One screw gets threaded up there. And these are the included screws that came with the Moto Dynamic kit, by the way. 4mm Allen head. This one you cannot access once you actually mount the tail tidy, so we definitely want to get it nice and snug. Like so. We're going to be installing the tail tidy actual assembly onto these 3 bolts right here. One thing that I noticed is all of Moto Dynamics bolts are these really nice, really nice stainless steel. I mean, they're really nice high quality bolts. But these two here are gonna be visible, clearly visible. So I don't want those stainless steel, so I actually grabbed the black ones that were factory, that came, they actually mounted they held the turn signals on, the binnacles. So I grabbed these, they're the exact same size. And I'm going to use those down here so that it's a nice clean black, all black look. We don't have any silver screws hanging out. So you just line up those holes. One of them is going to be silver, and that's fine because it's not visible. And you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. So right back up under here, you've got the pass-through hole. That's where your wires, all of your wires go through that hole. And that hole right there lines up with this hole right here. So see how it's pretty hidden? That's why I'm not all that worried about it. Come back up above, put on the bowl. And before you snug that, get the other two bolts started, or at least one of them. And that'll make sure that everything lines up. Before you guys deride me about not using Loctite on these, each and every one of these nuts has a nylon ring, so they're self-locking fasteners. Yeah, everything's now secured. We will feed these wires to the license plate light through that little pass-through hole and plug them in up top. There's our wires coming up. We'll just plug them in, black to black, white to white. And that, guys, really is the install. It's just that easy. If you want to use the factory turn signals and mount them off to the side here, it looks really great, as you can see in the pictures in the intro. And what the hell, I'll put one right there. And you just use these brackets, man. They're just really slick, really nice, all solid steel. And this is why I went with the Moto Dynamic kit, is because it was a removable turn signal bracket. So while I was waiting for Moto Dynamic to come out with their integrated taillight, can't wait, yes! I used the factory turn signals, and I think it cleaned up the look an awful lot. It was freaking awesome. It was really easy to install, and yet again, Moto Dynamic came through with a splice-free kit. Just plug and play, man. Super simple, like I showed you earlier on the install. So yeah, that's the rest of the installation. I'm not actually finishing the installation because, like I said, I got this in. Oh, I can't wait. And no, in case you're wondering, I'm not sponsored by Moto Dynamic. I spent my own hard-earned money on this. And I do it for every single bike that they offer an integrated taillight on, because they're just that good. But Moto Dynamic comes calling, I'm answering. Until the next week, until the next video, guys, you know I love each and every one of you guys. Keep that shiny side up, and peace.